Morning. Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day here in Western New York. I have always maintained that Western New York has the best summers in the country. And today is a great example of that, with the beautiful winds coming off the lake, nice sunshine, etc. I want to thank everyone who's joining me today, our great county executive, Mark Polencars, the Lackawanna Mayor, Annette Iafello, our great Senator, Tim Kennedy, the Erie County IDA Chair President, John Capolino, and Bonnie Lockwood from Governor Hochul's office. Before I get on the subject at hand, I want to acknowledge and recognize that today is Juneteenth, June 19th, and it's the 158th anniversary of the day that enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, the last community where there were slaves, were free. Today's a reminder of our capacity to emerge from our most painful moments as a better, stronger version of ourselves, committed, continuing to be committed to working for equal justice and fulfilling the promise of our Constitution. Okay, now, today, I'm really thrilled to be here at Renaissance Commerce Park. Renaissance couldn't be a better name for this park, because under County Executive Polencars' great leadership, the site has seen a rebirth. And that's great news when you realize the change. This was once the lifeblood of Buffalo, the former home of Bethlehem Steel, but those jobs were lost to offshoring, and now we're seeing new life. Mark had a vision. It was his field of dreams. If you build it, they will come, and they are coming, and that is great, great news. The investment he put into the site has returned many times over, with hundreds of jobs now walking in from the cornfields. That's a reference to the movie, everybody. I was there. By the way, I was in Dyersville in Iowa and saw the actual field of dreams. It was amazing. One of my goals, this is parenthetical, but I'll say it. On my bucket list was to drive across rural Iowa. And when I became senator, Senator Harkin arranged a trip. We went across Route 3. We started at Dyersville in the northeast corner, drove all across Route 3, stayed at the Gustafson's hog farm for 2 days. Quite an odor over at that hog farm. And we ended up at the Blue Bunny Ice Cream Factory in the northwest Iowa, the largest ice cream factory in the world. You never heard of it because they sell it to the chains. You know, they make this ice cream and then label it for Safeway or for Albertsons or any one of those. Anyway, if you build it, they will come. The investment they are now walking off the cornfields and coming to work here. It's amazing to see. And it's not just happening here in Western New York, but across upstate New York. And I'm here today to reveal a new bipartisan bill that would help supercharge this effort and help make sites like this home to many more industries of the future. It's called the Onshore Act. It's a good name, and it's an acronym. Now listen to what they came up with to get onshore. The opportunity for non-developed sites to have opportunities to be rehabilitated for economic development. Onshore.
Well done.
The acronym is onshore. I would take credit for me, but I am pushing this bill hard along with Senators Kelly, a Democrat of Arizona, and Senator Vance, a Republican of Ohio, and they came up with the name. So they get the credit or the blame. What it does solve is the chicken and egg problem that municipalities and companies have faced for years when it comes to locating critical industries like semiconductors, supply chains, advanced manufacturing. The bill creates the first of its kind. It's $100 million a year, a federal grant program within EDA, our economic development agency, to make sites shovel-ready for companies to move and boost workforce development. I know a lot about this because I have passed historic legislation that is starting to locate good high-end jobs in upstate New York. We're seeing a manufacturing boom. We're becoming one of the centers of high-end manufacturing and chip fab in the country with many different groups. They're coming back, these companies. But you know what's one of the first questions when I call a CEO and say, are you going to locate in upstate New York? We've got water, we've got power, we've got great workforce, we got the majority leader who can help you get federal grants. They say, do you have a shovel-ready site? Now, we were just able to persuade Edwards Packaging, one of the largest vacuum packaging firms for chips, to locate 600 new jobs at the stamp site in Genesee County. Why? It was shovel-ready. And this money will help sites here at Renaissance and elsewhere become shovel-ready. It's shovel-ready for some. We have 3 or 4 companies already. I saw that new solar company there. That was great. But it'll help them make more of the sites shovel-ready for anyone who wants to come. This ensures that we land these with all the advantages that upstate and western New York have to attract people. As I said, cheap power, a lot of water, a lot of great labor force, a majority leader. The shovel-ready site is so important. So if you want proof that this works, here, look at Renaissance Commerce Park, which has now become home to over $35 million in new investments from TMP Technologies and Uniland Development to many others. And as I said, look at the stamp in Genesee County, where Edwards Vacuum chose its 600 job, 317 site. And Micron. How did we land Micron in Syracuse? The biggest investment in U.S. history, the biggest investment to make memory chips, cutting-edge memory chips, because White Pine was shovel-ready. That's the site in Clay, New York, a suburb of Syracuse, where they're locating. So with this critical boost in spending from the Onshore Act, where Western New York has major sites available, from here, right here at Renaissance, all the way to Medina, we can lead the charge in bringing jobs back overseas, good-paying jobs in reviving American manufacturing, whether it's chips or other facilities. Okay? With the passage of my Chips and Science Law, which I so talked about up here, and the Inflation Reduction Act, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, companies, and we've put in here that anyone who wants these grants, you got to make it here. We've put Made in America provisions in, and so companies are coming back. Big companies are closing down plants in Asia and coming back to upstate New York. We just had onsemi, another chip manufacturer, close a Chinese plant and a Japanese plant and open up a new one in the Hudson Valley. Okay? So, we have, because of these acts, the companies are coming back, but we need ready sites, and the Onshore Act helps get it done. This bipartisan bill is how we solve the problem to quickly begin construction and get those jobs going. The push works hand in hand with the other investments we've made. There's the Build Back Better Regional Challenge Grant. We got Western New York, Buffalo, about $25 million to train workers. People are looking for trained workers. We're working hard to get Buffalo and Rochester declared a tech hub, one of 5 in the whole country, which will mean lots more money to locate businesses, but all of it depends on these sites. So the bottom line, the combination of the Onshore Act, which I hope to pass in the upcoming either Defense Act or Budget Act in this summer or in September, is combined with the Science Act, the CHIPS Act, and all of these others, will work in tandem to guarantee that critical industries are made in America and that communities like upstate New York, which have advantages over so many others, do it. So I'm going to fight hard for this Onshore Act. I think we have a damn good chance of getting it passed. It's bipartisan, as I said. Democrats and Republicans support it, and it's going to mean a lot for Western New York. With that, as I said, a load of credit goes to our great and visionary, in this case, county executive who helped create this Renaissance Park in 2017, was it?
It's been a work in progress for 10 years.
10 years, okay. I think it opened, well, anyway, for a long time.
Opened in 17.
Right, opened in 17. Mark.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for joining us here today and coming to Lackawanna, New York. This site means a lot to me and so many others because this is the location of where Bethlehem Steel used to be. And it was always known as the place where Bethlehem Steel used to be. And people really don't understand, unless you had seen this site, during its heyday what it was. They just thought, wow, there's these open fields and there's some old buildings. No, this was wall to wall to wall buildings that kind of looked like that. And then when Bethlehem Steel left, it basically all got torn down. And it was an example of what happened during that period of the 1980s when American companies started offshoring operations because it was cheaper to build steel in China, in the Far East. And American companies suffered, and of course the ones that suffered the most were the American workers in communities like Lackawanna, which is on a rebound. And that's one of the reasons why we renamed this site when we finally acquired it, the Renaissance Commerce Park, because it was going to be a renaissance compared to what people remember. But there's so much more work to be done. We have accomplished a lot. Sucro Sourcing, a Brazilian company, decided to place its first major operations of sugar refinery in the United States right here. And you can see the ship. That is an ocean-going ship. This is one of the few deep water ocean-sized ports. What made this site beneficial for Bethlehem Steel to move here, actually it was Lackawanna Iron Steel Company when it moved here from Pennsylvania, is still relevant today. A deep water port, the ability to immediately access rail and highway. But we still have a lot of work that needs to be done to ensure the growth that we've seen so far continues, and it is in infrastructure. You're seeing some of it going on behind us with regards to new water lines that are being put in, but there's so much more that needs to be done. The 150-acre site that you see here, approximately half of it is spoken for, but there's a lot more that still needs to happen to bring a large business here. And as the senator said, it has to be shovel-ready sites. They're not going to go to a site unless it's ready. And we're getting it ready, but we're not there yet. We need additional work, and that's why the Onshore Act is proposed and supported by the senator means so much. These sites do not change on their own. I do appreciate you using the Field of Dreams reference because it's something I've talked about. If you build it, they will come. We had 40 years of if it just sits there, no one's coming. We always waited for businesses to come, and they wouldn't. They want shovel-ready sites. That means you've got to have electricity access. You have to have water. You have to have sewer. You have to have gas. You have to have all the utilities that are necessary to operate in a modern age. And that's why it is important that we continue to invest in these sites. And I really appreciate the senator for his support with the Onshore Act, because there is so much that still needs to be done to take that vision I have and take it to its full level. When we talk about investments in our communities, they don't come with 25,000 jobs like they once did, but they come with 1,000 jobs, 600 jobs, 2,000 jobs. And that's what we're shooting for at the Renaissance Commerce Park, is to create an environment where we're not going to have 25,000 jobs with one company, but we could have 1,500. We could have 700. It's working at Stamp. For many years, people talked about the Stamp site. It's just sitting there. Nothing's happening. But the investments that are made, especially by the federal government with regards to the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act, are taking hold because the companies are coming. They're coming to Syracuse with Micron. As you noted, they're coming to Genesee County because of the Stamp Act. They're starting to come to the Renaissance Commerce Park here. As I noted, that's a Brazilian company. Welded Tube is a Canadian company. TMP, it's an American company, but they had a lot of pressure to move their operations elsewhere. They kept it here, so now the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser is made here in Lackawanna. So if your grandchild gets old enough and starts doing crayons and markers on the wall,
Yes.
you can get the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser out made in Lackawanna to clean off the walls. But finally, on behalf of all the residents of Erie County, I want to thank the senator for continuing to fight for us here in Lackawanna and in Erie County. He's never forgotten us here. It's very important. You often see what goes on in Washington, but I've had the opportunity to meet with the senator in Washington, and he knows about the issues that matter here in Lackawanna. He knows about what's going on in Erie County, and the legislation that he proposes and eventually is passed makes a difference. It really makes a difference. Federal EDA dollars helped make this site a reality. They would not have happened without the strong support years ago when we were in your office.
I remember.
Fighting when EDA tried to strip those dollars from our community. It was Senator Schumer who said, no, we need to make this a reality, and those dollars have made a difference at this site. And I know with the passage of the Onshore Act, we'll have additional dollars that'll help bring that dream to a full reality of business after business after business. An employee from our region working here in Lackawanna, creating a better community for all. Thank you, Senator, and you have my full support.
Great job.
Thank you.
Next, we have our great mayor of Lackawanna, and that is Mayor Iafello. Mayor,
Thank you,
welcome.
Senator.
Great to
Thank
see you again.
Good morning. I'd like to offer a warm Lackawanna welcome to United States Senator Chuck Schumer, Bonnie Kane Lockwood representing Governor Kathy Hochul's office, New York State Senator Tim Kennedy, Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz, and ECIDA President and CEO John Capolino. Senator Schumer, we thank you for championing the Onshore Act federal grant program, which will provide more resources to help redevelop industrial lands throughout New York State as shovel-ready sites for the new in-demand industries. As we know very well here in Lackawanna, redevelopment efforts of this nature are monumental in scope and require multi-levels of government support and collaboration to be successful. Under the vision and leadership of County Executive Mark Poloncarz and the stewardship of the ECIDA, the power of such government partners in our full display here at the former Bethlehem Steel Lackawanna plant site, which is transforming into a modern Renaissance Commerce Park. As recently as 2020, this land was mostly a blank canvas of opportunity. Thanks to the efforts of government partners of all levels, including the city of Lackawanna, in just a few short years, we've seen millions of new private development projects completed or started within the Commerce Park and elsewhere in our city, all of which are generating new revenues and job opportunities, and there's more to come. Renaissance Commerce Park in Lackawanna is proof that government resources like those championed by Senator Schumer and others at the state level by Governor Hochul and Senator Kennedy are effective tools for bringing about transformational redevelopment of industrial sites when used strategically. Based on the success we're seeing in Lackawanna, we support and encourage extension of this model for the benefit of other communities throughout New York State. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Great. And now we have our great Senator, Tim Kennedy, who always cares about jobs in Western New York.
Thank you very much, Senator. First, I want to thank the mayor for her leadership, Governor Hochul, and Bonnie Kane Lockwood, our regional director here, John Capolino from the IDA, who I refer to as the brains of economic development in all of Western New York at the IDA. Our county executive, again, for his vision in helping to make Renaissance Commerce Park a reality. But I really want to focus on our incredible U.S. Senator, Chuck Schumer, who makes it a point every year to go to 62 counties across New York State. But we know he's here more often than not. So often that we'd love him to get an apartment here. You know, he cares deeply about our community. As has already been mentioned, without his leadership, we wouldn't have these economic opportunities that we are seeing take root right before our very eyes. And the Onshore Act, once passed through Senator Schumer's leadership, is going to be the shot in the arm that businesses that are looking to locate to Buffalo and Western New York are going to need to make sure that this investment is fruitful for them, that jobs continue to be created by the hundreds right here along the Great Lake Erie's edge. And as we look around again, you see the Port of Buffalo once again taking root, once again thriving. And this was just a dream when I was a young man. But this dream is now becoming a reality. And it's a reality for all of us. People in Western New York are saying today, we never thought we'd see the investment in our lifetimes. Well, here we are. Just pay a visit here to the millions of dollars that are being invested, the dozens of businesses that are taking root right here along the water's edge, and the hundreds of jobs that are being created. Thank you, Senator Schumer, for your leadership.
Tim,
for
thank you,
never
buddy.
forgetting Western New York and for leading us not just here in New York State, but in the halls of the Capitol. And I want to recognize my son, who's interning for Senator Schumer, who's here with us today. Thank God he takes after his mother, Senator.
He's doing a great job already. Great. I was once an intern. Okay, and now last speaker, last but not least, is our Erie County IDA President, John Capolino. John, there you are. Thank you, Senator. I see Tim is wearing his Ukrainian colors. We're fighting hard to get more money for Ukraine, too.
That's right.
So thanks everyone for coming out to Renaissance Commerce Park on a beautiful day. As the mayor and county executive always say, it's always sunny here out in Lackawanna, and we've done a number of these events. The weather always cooperates. Such a beautiful day, and I think symbolic of where we are and the renaissance of this region. I saw the majority leader speak at a conference at Cooperstown earlier this month, and I knew he was going to bring a baseball reference kind of today, but I think the Onshore Act, when we started...
Can't talk about the Yankees this weekend.
They did lose. We started to talk about the Onshore Act and what it means for communities like this. You think about this site and the history, they made steel here, we made some of the steel went to Liberty ships, everyone knows the history. But the one thing that's fascinating to me is until the county Department of Works put our street in over there that you drove on, it was the first public infrastructure that was ever put on this site. I mean, this site was a private facility. It had its own, fire department, own police department, own sewer department, own electric plant. So in order to bring these sites back to life, it really is a challenge in the resources you need to start to get that infrastructure in so that when businesses call, we have sites that we can certainly show them and say, look, here's where you can go, here's how you can develop your new facility here. And I think Renaissance Commerce Park is very symbolic from not only the site, but from the industry standpoint. We're talking about new industries, energy industries, advanced manufacturing industries, new technologies that are being developed. We're competing on a global stage now, and I think it's great to see. Last 2 years ago, we had the most manufacturing businesses approach us at the IDA for expansions and things in our region in a number of years. So, manufacturing is alive here. It is true, as the county executive and the mayor and everyone mentioned, and Tim, when companies come and talk about our region, you have to have a site. That's one of the first questions they ask is, where can we go? We like your region, we like your workforce, but we need a physical place to put facilities. So, as I've joked a number of times, when we're involved in the day-to-day redevelopment out here, I always kid folks. I say, I know why developers like to do greenfield development, because this is a challenge and it requires a lot of resources. If you look behind us, you'll see, blue pipes back there. Thank you, Senator, and the others of the EDA and the state and everyone, the county executive, and has invested money in getting that basic infrastructure onto the property. So, when you look back at things, it's always a number of actions that occur that take us to a new era in a new realm of investment in our region. And you start to see things like the Senator mentioned others, the vision for this site, federal policy, state investment, our private sector folks that have to come here and believe and invest and use our workforce and put our people back to work. So I'm really excited as someone doing the day-to-day to be very involved in this, and I think the new Onshore Act will provide a lot of great resources to get not only this site but other sites across the state ready for development. And I think, as someone said earlier, it's field of dreams to field of reality, which we're starting to see now on the site. So, Senator, thank you.
Appreciate
all my
it,
team,
John.
I thank you for all your
Great.
help.
Okay, we'll take questions on this subject. Mr. Dave, what's your middle name? David what, McKinley?
I'll tell you later if you're really interested.
Do you know?
I don't know.
He knows where I live, so.
If it's an A, it would spell...
Dab. Okay, so just to clarify, there's another Onshore Act. That one has to do with giving local authorities some governance over gas leasing on federal lands. This is not tied into the same thing,
No,
right?
totally different.
This is a different Onshore Act.
Different.
Okay, so our careers mirror each other.
This one is, I couldn't even remember it, and neither could
all right.
you.
We got
But
it.
It is the...
You want another shot at it?
It is the opportunities for non-developed sites to have opportunities to be rehabilitated for economic development onshore.
All right. It's a different onshore.
Yeah.
All right. Our careers mirror each other in one fashion. I've been doing this as long as you've been in Congress.
There you go.
All right.
We maybe
So-
both have many more successful years.
And in all that time, I don't know how many times I've heard people like yourself stand up saying we're going to bring manufacturing jobs back.
They're coming.
Yeah. What's the key difference here with this than all the other ones we've heard?
Two things. Number one, we said if you're going to make it here and even use the steel or any of the parts or anything, it's got to be made in America. I've been pushing for this for years, saying China's offshoring our jobs. I was up here and you covered me years ago on this. We're now saying it's got to be made here, not in China. Companies are coming back. They're hiring American labor. Second, we realized that other countries, China in particular, but others, are busy giving companies money to go there. And we did nothing. We sat on our hands and lost job after job after job. There was unfair competition. The CHIPS Act provides $52 billion to help American companies come here, but they can't get the money unless they employ a certain number of workers. They get each dole of money for workers. So it's not going to be like the old projects where the federal government just screwed up and said, we're going to give you money, we hope you'll do something. It's all tied. So you put those two things together and the jobs are coming here. I forgot to mention another one. Green hydrogen, one of the future heating proposals, energy proposals. Where's the first manufacturing plant of green hydrogen? In that plant, the stamp plant over there in Genesee County. So we under my leadership, when I became majority leader, I said we're not doing it the old way. Got to be made in America, and we got to make American companies lead the world. Okay. Other questions on this subject?
Well, I have just one more.
Go ahead.
You say the
you have
biggest
good questions,
The
Dave.
biggest question you get is, do we have a shovel-ready site?
Yes.
We got a lot of space. Isn't the biggest question you get is how can we get around the high taxes and anti-business stance of New York State?
No. I mean, Micron was eager to come here. And what we have here is certain things that other states don't have, aside from shovel-ready sites. Cheap power. It's right here up at Niagara Falls. And the state has been very good. I salute the governor in making sure that cheap power is there. Plenty of water. A lot of these places could go out west, they don't have water. They can't do it without water. And a workforce that's been trained in manufacturing. Western New York is known. There were 35,000, a tradition of manufacturing. So that's the biggest issues we get, and we've been hugely successful. It's not just Micron, but it's not just the things at Stamp. Binghamton is scheduled to be the leading manufacturer of lithium-ion batteries. Albany is going to become the number one, we hope with my push, the number one research center for high-end chips. Global Foundries is expanding their plant in Saratoga, another 3,000-4,000. It's happening across upstate New York. Hudson Valley, got Onsemi I mentioned, East Fishkill. Utica, my dad's hometown in Marcy. Wolfspeed has over 1,000 jobs and is making the only silicon carbide chips here in America. Another company in Syracuse called JMA makes the only 5G stuff made in America. Their orders are going through the roof because all the rest of it used to be made overseas.
Can I just
Yes,
say one thing?
Mr. Mark.
Senator. I think in response to your question, Dave, all you got to do is look at this site and think about the companies that are now here that were actually could have gone elsewhere. Welded Tube, which is the building to the right, Canadian company that was looking at South Carolina as well as Tennessee. But they realized it made sense to be here.
But why, Mark? Did we give them more
GMP
money?
Technologies. They were getting pressure from Procter & Gamble, who is the main seller of the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, to move their company elsewhere. And what we ended up doing is we can compete with any other part of the United States. We're offering incentive package to ensure that they can succeed here. But they also, as the senator noted, they need access to things that other areas in the country cannot. And the one thing is they're long-term. They're not thinking about 1 or 5 years. They're thinking about where they want to be in 40 and 50 years. Water's a big, big draw. We talk about the blue economy, and the blue economy is right on the other side in some ways of those windmills because we have the water. And we're talking to companies across the United States that are looking and saying, you know what, we were in the Southwest, we were in the Southeast, but they don't have the water supply, and we're going to need the water supply. So we have a lot of advantages, and we can compete with anyone.
And
That
work-
was a...
I'm sorry. Workforce.
Yeah.
We are known as having a skilled workforce. The fact that we have good community colleges that train people for working, good SUNY schools that train people for working, good private schools that train people for working also helps. Those are the big five.
We've always had those things. We've always had the water, always had the workforce.
We-
So what's the difference now?
Made in America.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Ask me again so you can. Made in America is the number one difference. Number one. You know, they'll go overseas for much cheaper labor. And that can't do it anymore. Okay? All right. Yes.
How's it going, Senator Schumer? I had a question. So you said that the onshore bill has bipartisan support.
Yes.
What is the actual feasibility of the bill? Who have you spoken to on the other side of the aisle to assure you of this feasibility?
One of the, more active senators, Senator Vance, who wrote the book, Hillbilly Elegy, was it called? He's the leading Republican, and he's very good at getting Republicans. I've talked to a lot of, everyone wants to bring jobs back to America. That's not a bipartisan issue. And we have a China coalition, to deal with China that is bipartisan as well. Okay? Great. Thank you, everybody.